The technique of mounding isn't new. For centuries, our ancestors have prepared the soil to give crops the best chance of survival and increase yields. A famous Swedish botanist named Carlos Linnaeus observed that yields from vegetable crops more than doubled when grown on mounded beds. Research from as early as the middle of the 19th century shows a better chance of success using mounding. In 1932, a Latvian named K. Buss noted the advantages of mounding for forestry and recommended its use be increased. Mounding in BC was introduced much like the early days. In 1973, Dr. R. G. McMinn of Forestry Canada began testing the performance of spruce seedlings on handmade mounds.
In our research to find out the best way to prepare sites for spruce reforestation, we looked at natural seedlings. We looked to see how they were growing under different sites, and we measured temperature and moisture and nutrient conditions in order to come up with the type of condition, type of preparation in which seedlings would grow well. These are an example of seedlings after 6 years growing on overturned organic matter with a mineral capping, and I think you can see that the seedlings are saying to us, this is a good way to go for this kind of site.
Mounds can be constructed in several ways. Mineral soil can be placed directly on mineral soil. Mineral soil can be placed directly on undisturbed humus. Mineral soil and humus can be mixed in the mounding process, or humus can be inverted and capped with mineral soil. The last technique, known as inverted humus mounding, will be emphasized in this production. We'll look at the structure of a mound, some of the research done on the mounding technique, and talk to foresters and researchers about problem sites. We'll also look at a variety of mounding equipment, and finally, some tips on proper planting of mounds. First, let's take a look at the structure of a mound and its environment.
What we've done here is taken a cross-section through the mound to show you the different aspects of the mound. We're dealing with a mineral soil layer on the surface, which was originally located in a sort of hole to that side of the mound. And this is then over the original organic surface layers, the little layers, and then this has all been piled on top of the original surface and original material undisturbed.
Seedlings must survive and grow in a hostile environment. The structure of the mound can change that environment in many ways. Light, temperature, moisture, nutrients, soil density, and resistance to damage are all affected by the mound, giving seedlings an often needed boost. Low light levels reduce the rate of photosynthesis, so seedlings growing in heavy shade are often spindly and weak. As the amount of sunlight increases, so does photosynthesis, so seedling growth improves. Mounds have a large open surface area. This can dramatically increase the amount of light the seedling can get. An increase in sunlight also affects the temperature in a mound. The mineral soil on top of the mound will warm more quickly than an organic layer will. That warmth will penetrate to the seedling's roots for good growth. Mounds also warm earlier. This means a head start for seedlings in the spring and each day throughout the growing season. Roots also need to breathe. Poorly drained soil or flooded soil can keep air from the roots, causing seedlings to die. The root zone in a mound is elevated, keeping roots above the water table, allowing better drainage and making oxygen more available to the roots. Roots also have access to more nutrients. The organic layer in a mound is turned over or doubled. The mound's increased warmth allows more efficient breakdown of this layer, and more nitrogen is available to the roots. Mounding also loosens the soil, so roots can penetrate more easily. The mound can also help seedlings resist damage from other factors. Competing vegetation is reduced over the first few years, giving seedlings a good start. The mound's open surface area exposes small mammals to predators, reducing the risk of feeding on newly planted seedlings. Mounding may also reduce the risk of frost damage by raising seedlings up to warmer air temperatures. On the other hand, in some areas, snow provides protection and insulation for seedlings. A mound may raise the seedling above that protection, exposing it to cold and wind. Research can help provide the data to make the right decision on site preparation. Scientific equipment allows the monitoring of weather and soil conditions at the site. Measurements of soil temperature and soil moisture conditions are made manually every 2 to 3 weeks. Probes are located where the seedling has its roots. Other temperature and moisture probes, as well as rainfall, sunshine, and wind speed instruments are monitored continually with a powerful electronic data logger. This equipment monitors the seedling's environment 24 hours a day, 12 months of the year. The data logger stores the readings in its memory. A computer can be brought to the site to retrieve information and check on-site what the conditions have been. Dave Spittlehouse explains.
So we can process the data and then bring it up into a spreadsheet, and then use that spreadsheet to draw some graphs, for example. This graph illustrates what the temperatures are like in our mound treatment that we're monitoring and an untreated area. As you can see, we're looking at about a 2-degree difference in average temperature through still, even into the fall as the temperatures drop. And that'll mean in the daytime the maximums may be in the order of 5 or 6 degrees difference.
Other research determines how the seedlings respond to the environment. Research results tell us that seedlings planted in mounds survive and grow better.
But it's also important for us to understand how they got there. And the way that we can do that is by actually looking at the rate of production of material, of photosynthetic material. That's the stuff that they're going to be using to help put on biomass.
Research results can help decide whether or not a site will benefit from mounding. However, some sites have limiting factors that hamper the success of any reforestation efforts.
We're on the high elevation sites in the Caribou region. It's the ESSF-H, and these are severe sites. We're having a lot of trouble regenerating these sites. Almost, or probably about 50% of these sites are NSR.
If the high elevation site is NSR, or not satisfactorily restocked, it's because these sites are very wet and cold. These sites get more than 2 meters of snow that generally stays on the ground well into the spring. The growing season here can be as short as 1 month, between late June and early August. Melting snow saturates the soil in the spring. Saturation persists as the water from snow melting at higher elevations moves down the slope. Snow creep, or the movement of snow downslope, can also cause severe seedling damage. Revegetation, especially by fireweed, can also add to the regeneration problems.
What happened in the fall was that, as you can see, the fireweed around here then started to seed in from the adjacent stands, and we had a microsite that was very receptive for seeding, and this is what you ended up with. So the fireweed has seeded in here in August of '87, and this is the second growing season now for the fireweed, and you can see the rhizomes have started to take over the mound. As I say, it's going to be a problem in the future, but right now we're not too worried about it.
In fact, we know the positive aspects of mounding have altered some of the limiting factors here. Well-formed mounds with good mineral soil capping have provided a warmer rooting zone, reduced seedling damage caused by snow creep, and set back the vegetation to give the planted seedlings a fighting chance. Sites with poorly drained depressional areas pose problems of a different variety.
Mounding can be particularly beneficial on wet depressional areas like this one. When soils are saturated, they contain very little oxygen, and that can severely hamper root growth.
When timber is removed by logging, the water table will generally rise as well, adding to the already wet conditions. Saturated areas like this will usually have very deep organic layers built up over impervious subsoil. Making mounds out of this decomposed organic material provides a raised, well-drained and warm growing environment. Left to nature, higher positions will provide better growing sites for new seedlings, so mounding seems a natural choice here. Lack of moisture remains the prime concern of soil scientists coping with dry ecosystems.
One of the first considerations is the risk of desiccation of the mineral cap. When mounds are created in areas that have thick organic layers and the mineral cap is placed on top of this organic layer, it is essentially cut off from the supply of moisture in the mineral soil below the organic layer. The organic layer doesn't conduct moisture readily to the overlying mineral cap. It represents a hydrologic discontinuity.
This is an experimental site. Part of it was mounded and part of it was left untreated. It's a relatively dry site. The soils are coarse textured and rather shallow. So it's not a site that you would normally prescribe a mounding treatment for. As part of my study, I've been looking at mounds with various different kinds of capping materials and depths of capping. This particular mound has a capping material that has a high coarse fragment content and very coarse soil texture. A mound of this type will tend to dry out, certainly much more rapidly than one with a higher organic matter content.
Mounding on drier sites should be done with caution. Particular care is required when treating and planting these sites. Once you've decided that mounding is right for your site, you'll need to decide what kind of mounding equipment will best do the job. Let's look at 5 pieces of equipment being tested and used in site preparation. This is called a 2-row brachy mounder. It's pulled by a Clark 668 skidder with chains on all 4 wheels. When it's moving forward, the wheel on the mounder drives a reduction gear, which in turn rotates the mattock wheels slightly slower than the forward motion of the skidder. The mattock teeth penetrate the humus layer and flip it over on top of the undisturbed ground. The spade that follows then scoops mineral soil from the humus-free spot and deposits it on top to form a mineral cap. This machine creates a mound or a patch which will provide microsites appropriate for dry to moist areas. Sites with humus layers exceeding 30 centimeters or areas with heavy slash loadings should be avoided. It creates mounds covering an area 40 by 50 centimeters, capped with mineral soil. This is the 2-row rivtoe mounder. It's on a crawler tractor with a V-blade to clear away heavy slash. The mounder prototype was developed by the Ministry of Forests. The mounder's toothed spades dig into the soil with the aid of hydraulic pressure. The combined action of the forward motion and the curve and tilting lift of the spade produces an inverted humus mound with a mineral cap all in one motion. It creates mounds that are usually well capped, covering an area of 80 by 100 centimeters. It's been used on frozen ground with snow up to 30 centimeters deep. This is a tracked John Deere 490D excavator. It has a special spade slightly curved with teeth to penetrate the thick organic layer. Tines on the back of the spade are used for clearing coarse slash and debris from the spot to be used for mounding. With the machine stationary, the cab and arm can pivot, reaching out to create the plantable mounds. Each mound area is cleared of any coarse slash. The spade enters the soil and makes the mound with a peeling action. The depth of the humus layer determines whether or not there will be a mineral cap. This machine is best suited to sites which limit the use of conventional site preparation equipment. For example, sites with moderately steep slopes or sites with wet depressional areas. On wet sites, maximum flotation occurs soon after harvest, before root systems decay. Mounds are large, with either deep mineral capping or well-decomposed organic material. This is a tracked John Deere 30 excavator, a small machine with exceptionally high flotation. It has a special spoon-like spade. The spade is slightly curved, with teeth to penetrate thick organic layers. As the machine sits stationary, the cab and arm can pivot, reaching out to dig mounds. It scoops up the well-humified organic layer and turns it over. This machine is best suited for wet areas where high flotation is necessary. Mounds are usually quite large and are made up of humified organic material. This is a John Deere 510 backhoe attached to a Cat 528 skidder. The skidder is equipped with high flotation tires which provide good mobility. It is also equipped with stabilizers. The backhoe is equipped with a standard John Deere bucket fitted with tines for moving away coarse slash. When the operator is ready to make mounds, he will position the skidder with the stabilizers down. Reaching out with the arm, slash is pushed away, then soil is dug up into the bucket and dumped beside the hole. The mound can then be compacted using the bucket, making it solid and giving a flat planting surface. This machine was developed to move quickly between small treatment areas and is well suited for wet depressions and moderately sloping sites and can handle deep humus layers. Mounds are usually large and contain a mix of organic material and mineral soil. The development of mounding equipment is ongoing. At present, there are several other types of mounding equipment that are available, but not being used in British Columbia. Since considerable time and expense goes into preparing the site, it's important that seedlings are properly planted to ensure the best chance for survival and growth.
It's interesting to note that the mounds themselves have persisted during the 6-year period. They haven't broken down too much. This spring we began to notice a problem with the trees toppling over. And upon excavating some of the rooting systems, we found that the problem was that when they were planted, they were J-rooted, and this is resulting in a real lack of wind firmness in these trees.
Seedlings must be planted vertically into the mound, with the roots reaching into the inverted humus layer. The planting shovel should reach right through the mineral soil cap into the humus layer. If too shallow a hole is dug, J-rooting is sure to occur. Before seedlings are planted, planters should be aware of the correct depth and the correct area of the mound to plant. Each mound offers a variety of conditions or microsites for the seedling.
The key would be in many of the environments to make sure the roots are getting, when planted, into this layer down here, so they're in contact with the organic layer so they can get through to more moisture, more nutrients. On very wet sites, probably be planting in the upper layers. In the more drier sites, there's some suggestions we should be planting over more on the edges of the mounds.
Let's look at how we can adapt planting techniques to different sites.
Okay, with the mounds, we let them settle over the winter, so the snowpack will help make them solid. The planting of these, generally we get the planters to sort of kick out a flat spot like this and then plant right on the top, or any place where there's good fully decomposed or relatively fully decomposed humus.
On many sites, mounds tend to dry out periodically throughout the growing season. This problem can be offset in part by deep planting. Trees must be planted deep, 2 or 3 fingers above the root collar, so that the roots extend into the inverted humus layer. Testing is now being done on special long-rooted spruce seedlings. These seedlings can be planted deep into the humus layer below the mineral capping on a mound without burying the stem and needles of the seedling. Research has shown that in some areas, seedlings planted on mounds may be prone to frost heaving. Deep planting can help control this problem because roots are more securely anchored deep in the mound. They are also more likely to grow bigger, stronger roots in the organic layer, where they get a faster start. Deep planting has proven to be very effective against frost heaving in Sweden, where extensive testing has already taken place. From the tree planter's point of view, planting in mounds has both advantages and disadvantages.
Some of the negative aspects about planting mounds, from a planter's point of view, is it's rather hard to establish a planting pace. In between the mounds, sometimes there is a hole created by the mounder, which makes footing difficult, especially with the tree planting bag on.
Mounds made in clay soil sometimes form a brick-like clod when they dry out. Planting can be very difficult on these sites unless they are planted when the mounds are moist.
Some of the positive aspects about planting mounds are that the planting spots are chosen for you. There's no screefing involved, and generally speaking, the mineral capping allows for easy planting.
Most sites have some naturally raised spots that can be very favorable for planting. It makes sense to have planters take advantage of these natural sites as well as man-made mounds. Mounding site preparation. The technique has evolved through people with a vision, with dedicated scientists, field foresters, equipment operators, and tree planters. When used on the appropriate site with proper site preparation, the right equipment, and good planting techniques, mounding can give seedlings a better chance of survival and better growth performance.